Welcome back to Chapter 3 of Ivanhoe. They're going to have you read 3 and 4 this week. Chapters 3 and 4, Nana knew it, but she didn't really plan very well for it. So you're going to have work for Chapter 3, spelling words and vocabulary words, a pre-video, a post-video, just like normal. But for Chapter 4, I did not assign any spelling words, any written work for Chapter 4. Because I didn't plan very well, and I didn't think you needed all that work for 1 week. I figured I had planned enough for Chapter 3. If I did that much for Chapter 4, it'd be too much for 1 week. So I didn't do that. I talked to Mother, and she said that'd be okay. So, without further ado, oh wait, one more thing. In our handwriting instruments, I forgot to mention, or as I come up with ideas, you'll get them thrown in every once in a while, the possibility of a mechanical pencil to write in. I know as we get older and closer to adulthood in high school, and even in junior high, we are expected to write in pen a lot. But when we're working on mechanics, sometimes it's best to get the mechanics down first, and then we'll find an ink instrument. So don't discount the power of a mechanical pencil. It has a very fine point, and as you see, I have this little doodad on my pencil. Part of it is for decoration, just for decoration, yeah. But I really like it on there to write with, and I had it on a regular pencil. Now, one of my students from 2nd grade, and if you're wondering how long ago it was I taught 2nd grade, Bella was born in August at the beginning of the year that I taught 2nd grade. So that's about 6 years. But anyway, that child is now in 8th grade, and he made this for me, and I just moved it from a regular pencil to this pencil, and I really have found out I really like it. It was supposed to be a ring, but I found it very uncomfortable to wear. But I do like it as a pencil grip, so it works. So let me know what you think about that. If you need pencil grips, or if you may or may not like a mechanical pencil. And I see I'm already 2 minutes into this video, and I have not even started. I apologize. Okay, here we go. Chapter 3. Some of the things that I found interesting that I thought you would need to know is, well, let me just start with what I've got marked in my book real quick. One of the things that she says is the other appointment, Sir Walter Scott says, sometimes when I say she, it's because there's a woman reading the version that I listen to. And she says, okay, so, the other appointments of the mansion partook of the rude simplicity of the Saxon period, which Cedric piqued himself upon maintaining, which means the other appointments, that's just the other furnishings of the mansion, of the home. And so appointments are the other furnishings. And another thing that I found interesting, and I cannot find another source for this, is they're talking about how the hall is furnished and the dais is that is just an elevated. Well, let me give you the exact definition since I have it right here. It is a spelling word, and it is also a vocabulary word. So it's DAIS, and it's high table in a hall, a platform raised above the floor at one end of a hall or a room is for a throne, seats of honor, a speaker, a stand. So if you've ever been in a church that has like an elevated platform for the pulpit and where the preacher stands, that would be a dais. So think of that, maybe not quite that high off the floor. I'm just thinking of the church that I grew up in. But, so it was raised, so they were above. So if you've ever seen, and I know you've probably seen videos, movies of knights and kings and queens. So the higher place where the thrones are, that's the dais. And so they're talking about all those furnishings, and it says, in the center of the upper table were placed 2 chairs, more elevated than the rest, for the master and the mistress of the family, who presided over the scene of hospitality, and from doing so derived their Saxon title of honor, which signifies the dividers of bread. So they were the honored people. They were the highest people in the family. And of course, this is where Cedric the Saxon is going to sit. And then in chapter 4, we hear about Rowena. Her name just all of a sudden escaped me. Rowena, that's it, Rowena. So the lovely lady Rowena, who is of nobility, she is. Cedric is not. He's the chief person in that area. He is the chief person of that home. He's the chief of that shire, which is the county. So he is higher up than a lot of average folk, but he's not nobility. He's not of Saxon nobility birth. Rowena is. And so this is where, even though she's a woman, she is of nobility, and she's kind of like their star because he has guardianship over the last living nobility from the Saxons. And so she and Cedric get to sit up on the dais, and Wamba does too, because he's the jester and he gets to sit behind them. Now he gets to share treats with the dogs, with the favored dogs, but he's a servant, but he also gets to sit up there behind them. And he gets to whisper and talk to his master Cedric, and it's quite funny. Okay, so in chapter 3, Cedric is having all these things. He's having this issue. He's having a meltdown, basically, because his dinner's late. And it talks about, let's see, pride and jealousy there was in his eye, for his life had been spent in asserting rights which were constantly liable to invasion. Liable to invasion. I wanted to talk about that for a second. What that really means is his rights could be infringed upon any time from the Normans. That's what that means. His rights were going to be infringed upon. Sir Walter Scott has a way with words, and so many of them, he is very wordy. And like I said, some of it is so hard for Nana because I spent lots of hard work, time, money, effort into cutting out extra words. Because that's how you're taught to write in English. But in college. But that's not necessarily what we have here. So, anyway, I just think it's kind of funny. Oh, I'm in chapter 4. We don't want to go that far. Let's see. I think then that was my last point from there. Let's see. Is there anything else I wanted to do? We're meeting Cedric the Saxon in chapter 3. And he is the descendant of a famous Saxon rebel, a rogue, his name is Heward the Wake, and he was from 100 years earlier. Now, Cedric is still riding on the coattails of this Heward the Wake. Now, Cedric is nowhere near the fighter or the he's nowhere near the military person that this Heward was, but he's still riding on those coattails. And he's also riding on the coattails of Rowena, because he's taking honor that's not necessarily that he has earned. He's taking the honor because he is the guardian of Rowena, and so he's taking on that honor that's really not his to take, and he's also taking on honor from his Heward the Wake, his ancestor from 100 years earlier. And so if you think about it, he's almost 60, and his son Ivanhoe, a generation, and I don't know exactly how much a generation is between your mother and I, there's 17 years. Between Benjamin and your mother, there's 17, 18 years. Same with me and your mom, 17, 18 years. So, roughly 20 years, we'll say, maybe, in the average generation. So 100 divided by 20 is 5. So he may be the 5th generation from this man, and he is still taking honor from him, from his name, which is, I don't know. What do you think about that? I'd be interested to know. Sometimes our honor that we have needs to become our honor, not our ancestors. You know what I'm saying? I'd like to hear what you have to say about that. And then on, let's see, where are we? Dividers of bread. Yes, let's go ahead and get to, where is that page at? Okay, so the Sagittarius knowledge of physiognomy. I don't know how to say that word. But so she's going to give you this really long phrase. It's going to sound really long. It's really only about 1, 2, 3, 4 words. And it's the Sagittarius knowledge of physiognomy. That means they are keenly understanding of facial expressions. Yeah. And I want to discuss the difference between a truncheon and a trencher. A trencher, if you are familiar with, I was going to say Missouri, America's continental history, early American history, you will know that the Pilgrims and the folks that settled America, they ate off of trenchers, which is a wooden board or platter that they served food or meat on. It's the same thing. That's what a trencher is. Now, a truncheon is a heavy club, is a short, heavy club. So there's a big difference there. When I first read it, I thought it was a misprint. I thought, okay, well, maybe it's the same kind of thing. Totally different. But they're both at Cedric's place. He has the trencher, which he's going to eat from and serve food from, and he's going to give tidbits to his favorite dogs and to Wamba off the, trencher. See, it's difficult. So you have the trencher, and then the truncheon is the heavy club that he's going to beat the dogs off with if they get too excited about his food. And he also threatens to use it as a weapon. So there you go. He uses it for many things. And then to announce, I weaned some... Some of this is so hard. It's just so not our vocabulary these days. To announce, I weaned some hardship and robbery. To announce, I suppose, some pillaging and robbery. When Cedric is talking about, he's presuming why Garth and Wamba, well, see, he doesn't know where Wamba is. He has to be told that Wamba is out with Garth. And so, if I said Cedric and Garth and Wamba, I'm sorry, where Garth and Wamba are. Cedric is wondering why Garth is late. And he's supposing that, he says, to announce, so he's saying, when they come in, to announce, I mean, suppose, some herpship and robbery, which means to announce, I assume they're going to come in announcing that they've been pillaged and robbed, which means they're going to take everything. So he was just like playing things up in his mind, but that's what that means. And then the morat and pigment, those are drinks that were used by Saxons. The morat was made of honey flavored with juice and mulberry, so that's what the moray is. And then, or the morat, and the pigment is, I have it. It is actually one of your words. I must have put it on a different paper. Okay, so the pigment is a highly flavored, we'll get to the definition later, but it's a flavored wine. It's richly spiced with spices and sweetened with honey. That's what the pigment is. And then the, okay, and then that's pretty much, let's see, Oh, here we go. Opulent is opulent is not one of your words, but I wanted you to know what it is before you listened. Let's see. An alderman is a chief or a prince. In an Anglo-Saxon history, it was the chief officer in the shire or a county. And then we kind of talked about that earlier. Opulent is of much wealth or property. Detrepidation. The act or instance of robbery, plundering, or laying waste. Again, you're going to hear that in Cedric's going on and on about where Girth is. And then we don't see Rowena yet, but her lady in waiting, is talking to Cedric, and she's talking about her changing out of her hood and kirtle. Now, her hood is exactly what you're thinking. It's a hood. It's a cape. Now, she had been out in the rain, and she is so soaked that she has had to change her hood, which is her outer covering, and her kirtle. Now, a kirtle is a woman's dress or skirt. So she got so drenched that her hood, her cape, and her hood were not enough to keep her dry. So she has to redo her hair and change out of her wet garments. And her maid is saying, you know, Cedric, really, nobody can change as fast and do herself back up as fast as my mistress, and that's what she's talking about. Also, you'll find out that kirtle in your vocab lesson has another definition, but I just wanted you to know what it means right now before you read. And then a drudge is a person who does hard, menial, or tedious work. A drudge. A person who does hard, menial, or tedious work. Now, I think that's interesting that they're called a drudge because we have the English in our vocabulary nowadays, we have a dredge, which is what Grandpa Scott used to operate a dredge on the rivers, the Missouri River, Mississippi River, Missouri River, I think. I don't know. I get my rivers confused. I'm sorry. But the river there in St. Charles. Look it up. Tell Nana. Okay. So, but he also operated other places, and over by Chesterfield, that bridge there, that sand plant, he also worked there. It was all kind of the same operation, I think. Anyway, that's a dredge. So it goes down and it digs up. It's dirty, hard work. It digs up the bottom of the river. And also a dredge is, you think about laying sewer lines. They also talked about dredging them up. And I know your great-grandpa did that as a youngster. Let's see. Warders. A warder is a person who guards. So they're going to talk about warders in chapter 3. And I wanted you to know that a warder is a person who guards. And think about it, ward. Warder, ward on, like a prison guard. So it's a person who guards. Banditti! I thought that was an awesome word. I wanted to look it up because I had no idea what it meant. Banditti is plural for bandit. There you go. Now you know. Banditti. Many bandits are plural for bandits. Or bandit. Rotherwood. You're going to hear the name Rotherwood. That is the name of Cedric the Saxon's home. That is also one of your vocabulary words, just so you know. Knaves is a boy, male child, because that's the first little definition, is a serving boy or male servant. It's also a man of humble birth or status. It could also mean dishonest, or in the jack of cards, like the jack and the cards is a knave. Those are just for your, that's kind of FYI. Knave is a spelling word, and I believe it's a spelling word. It's also a vocabulary word. But you're not going to have to know it also means dishonest, or it's a deck of cards. I just threw those in the video just so it'd be kind of fun to know. You know, just some trivia. You might want to know that. Okay, so happy listening. I will see you in a few minutes or whenever you get to it, for your post video. Love you.